What we're going to cover today is I will start with the usual what's new section in Power BI, and then I will hand over to the guys from Allgeier, Alex and Roman, who will talk about how they used metadata driven orchestration to migrate a data warehouse into Fabric. Pretty exciting about it to see it in action, as I just saw a blog post, and in theory I know that it works, but now really looking forward how you implemented it. All right, let's start with the what's new section. First of all, quite a few event announcements. I mentioned it already last time that we have the first Fabric in a Day workshop here in Switzerland coming from Allgeier. One happened already in January, and the next one is in February on the 8th, so next week. Feel free to register yourself. It's free of charge, it's online, so really just go on it, register, and take place. I don't know if Alex or someone from Allgeier team wants to highlight something here. Feel free to unmute yourself quickly.
All good, nothing to add, so go ahead.
All right. Very good.
I just wanted to add that we had a very successful couple of weeks ago, the first one, Fabric in a Day, so this time in German. So if you're a German speaker, use the opportunity to hop on, and the whole team is here. It's Nicholas, it's me, and Alex who are presenting in there. So yeah, looking forward.
Yes, thank you very much. All right, so, and the next one, I did a chronological order, so there is no preference, it's just a chronological order. The next workshop we have will be on the 22nd of February, provided by D1. It's not a Fabric in a Day, but it's more like of a, let's call it a quick deep dive into Fabric, what it is, so that you also get hands-on experience. And as well, you can just register, attend. You see the participants over there. So Patrick and myself, we will be a little bit more for the Q&A section, and the team around D1 will lead the workshop. Here as well, if someone from D1 is here and wants to add something, feel free to unmute yourself and do so.
Yeah, we're super excited to hold this workshop. We are, as you said, it's more of a hands-on workshop. In like 1.5 hours, you will build a dashboard from scratch, you know, with a Lakehouse and all of the whole process end to end. And we're also going to share a lot of insights from our existing projects that are also currently, we have many clients currently interested in Fabric, and some have already started, and we're also going to talk about that. So it's especially intended for people who are in organizations thinking about going into Fabric, and yeah, these people are very welcome to join us.
Great. Thank you very much, Alexandra. Yes, Nicola?
And we're making it on site, so it will happen at the Circle, right at Flughafen, and there will be more executions as well. One will also be in Geneva.
Perfect. But I guess everything you need to know will be found in the link, right? Perfect.
Of course.
Great. All right. Thank you very much. Then going on, really quite a few events planned. So the next one is the SQL Beats. Probably you heard about it. It's really one of the leading data platform conferences held here in Europe. It will be in Farnborough in the UK. And if you wish to attend, you can use this code here highlighted. You will save up to 5% on your registration. So feel free to do so. Personally, I haven't been there. I'm not sure if Dennis has been last year, or do I have it wrong in mind?
No, I've been last year. I will go this year. I have a slot myself, Saturday morning, first slot, but different topic. But honestly, for me, it's the best conference that exists. I think it's better than, I don't want to insult any other conference, but it's really very nice organized from the community. Saturday is also free. So if you just want to, if your employer doesn't support it, you can just go Saturday. It's totally for free. If you want, otherwise also Wednesday, Thursday, Friday are sessions.
Correct. Thanks, Dennis. And next one, organized really especially for the Microsoft Fabric community, the first one, or the first annual conference, Microsoft Fabric Community Conference, coming from the community experts, but as well Microsoft leaders, meaning like the product group. For example, the guy in the cubes will be there and some others. And this one will happen from the 24th until 28th of March in Las Vegas. As well, if you're interested in attending, feel free to use here this Fabric community code to get a $100 discount. It's at least something for those who know how expensive Vegas is, but at least something you can save up here as well. All right. And one of the last things that I want to share, I shared it last time already, because on the 11th of January, we make it available, the new Fabric exam called DP600, Implementing Analytics Solution Using Microsoft Fabric. It's in a beta state. Beta state means it can have some kind of errors or some kind of bugs, and you will not get the result immediately after you took the exam. You would need to wait until it's, let's call it, general available. And after that, you will receive your result. Personally, I did it already. I haven't received my result yet, but I must admit it was quite tough. It wasn't as easy as the Power BI ones, I would say. But on the other hand, it also gives me a good feeling that the preparation of the exam was really good, and you really need to know about Microsoft Fabric if you want to pass. Nevertheless, for those who wish to pass, for those who have this in mind, we also offer now the Fabric Career Hub, which will help you to become a Fabric Analytic engineer, meaning you can go to this website, and let me do so quickly. And on the website, this is here, this is the link. On the website itself, you'll find different kind of content. So self-learning content, you can attend in hackathons if you wish. You can have a journey within 30 days that you can follow and really go through each and individual module with the goal to get this certification, and you will even get discount on your certification, on your exam if you wish. And you can also scroll a little bit down to the career insights. And I have to highlight a super MVP here. Probably you know him, who also talks a little bit about the career insights of his career. And I must admit, I absolutely agree what Dennis told us here, how he stepped into the Power BI world, and really worth watch it and get a little bit inspired.
And I did a shout out for the Fabric User Group Switzerland, and they let it in. I'm very happy about that.
Yes, true. And if you scroll through the faces, probably you will recognize some of them, as perhaps Matthias. He was here as well a while ago, talked about the PBI tools, and Pragati, we had her as well. So quite a few MVPs we already welcomed in the Fabric user group, and I'm sure we will also welcome the others probably in the near future as well. Very well done, Dennis, by the way, very well done. Super proud. All right, what's new in the Power BI section? Enough about events and stuff. So one of the updates that we did in the Power BI service is we enhanced the Model Explorer, meaning you can now edit the Model Explorer in the service. Well, this is not new, but you can have further features. For example, you can also create now calculation groups in the web user interface, or you can also manage relationships and stuff like this. And let me show quickly how this is doable. So if I go here to a workspace, first of all, in the workspace settings, you need to make sure in the Power BI general section that this one is enabled so that users can edit data models. And once you set it up, it takes a few seconds, I can click, for example, here on sales analysis, my semantic model, and this little button will be available. Otherwise, it will be grayed out. And if I open it, I can now, once there, edit my, obviously I got an error. Okay, thank you. Nevertheless, what you will see if it works, that you can modify the model here, that you can create calculation groups and stuff like this. Probably my fabric capacity behind the scene is not running. This could cause the error, but this would be the way to go. Keep one thing in mind: every change you do is automatically saved. So there is no, let's say, backup or anything. It's really just automatically saved. So be sure what kind of changes you do in your data model here. Any questions to that? Anything unclear?
Maybe something to add here. I don't know if this is an issue that only we have, but we've experienced that if we try and edit a model directly in Fabric, that it, and we have a Git integration attached to the workspace, that it won't allow us to sync the report. It'll just automatically do it for you, but there is actually no syncing happening at all. So just keep that in mind. There's a ticket open, but you know, if it's happening to you, it's something Microsoft is aware of, and they're trying to fix it.
All right, thanks for that. Wasn't aware of it. Looks or sounds like a bug to me, but if you are aware of it, I'm sure we will fix it in the near future. All right, then somehow I lost my slide. Let me get back to it. There we are. Next thing is we have now dynamic subscriptions for Power BI reports. Previously, it was announced for paginated reports. Now it's also available for Power BI reports. And what does it mean is you can use a semantic model and the data out of this semantic model and create a dynamic subscription. So you can really say which users should get a report in a dynamic way, meaning that you change, for example, the filter statement or the subject of the email or whatever. Requirements for it is you need a capacity, so premium or fabric, and as well build permission on the semantic model. And how to set this thing up, let me show that as well. Let me quickly change my workspace. Probably this is the right one. Yeah, this should work. So if we have a report, once you open it, you get here the Get Insights button. And if I select it, oh, sorry, this was the wrong one, not this one. Subscribe to report, this was the one, sorry for that. So if I select it, I can now create a new subscription here, and I can choose between a standard one and a dynamic one. Standard means is you configure it once and it will always be as you configure it, so no dynamic filtering or anything. In my case, I go now for the dynamic one. And now I can choose a semantic model to which I wish to connect to use from this semantic model my dynamic filter statements. So this means that your email addresses, for example, doesn't need to be in the same semantic model that you have. And in my case, I used the Power BI Guide standard report and the equivalent data set of it or semantic model of it, but I created a separate one called report subscription. So in my case, I just go to the report subscription one, select it, and hit next. Once there, I can select all the different fields that I wish to include into my dynamic configuration. In my case, I get all three of them. And if I select it, we get a preview of the data. As you see, it's pretty easy. So in my case, I have just the recipient, so the email address. I have an email subject which should change based on my recipient, and I have a sales territory filter which I will pass to the filter statement of my report. If I hit next, this is the email details, so the subscription name, how your subscription should be named. I can call it overview, or for example, overview or demo for user group. Then on the recipients one, I can add manually, obviously a security group or a user, but I can also click here in the drop-down menu and say get from data. And in this phase or here, all the fields that I selected previously will be visible now. And because I have my email addresses in the recipients field, I choose this one. And now it's dynamic, meaning every time I update my semantic model and add, for example, a new recipient or delete one, this will be reflected obviously in the subscription as well. Email subject, again, I can hard code something, or I can again go to get from data. And in this case, I take my next field, which is called email subject, so that this one will change as well. Message itself is not dynamic right now. I'm not sure if you have something on the roadmap, but the message is static. So this is a static message right now. What I can do as well is I can choose which report page, but the report page can also be dynamically. In my case, I didn't go this way, but you could choose that as well from a semantic model if you wish to do so. Lastly, do you wish to add a link to your report and a page preview? And do you wish to attach it? And if so, in what kind of format? And this can again be a field within your table of a semantic model if you wish to dynamically change it depending on your user needs. So is it a PDF or a PPTX? In my case, I'll let it as it is. Next step, this is where you can dynamically filter your whole report. And as an example, I can say add filter. I can now, from my semantic model of the report, I can choose the different fields from the different tables. And in my case, I have in my dimension city table a sales territory, and I wish to filter it by the sales territory coming from my subscription dataset. And now for the two different kind of persons that I have in there, the send out report will be filtered out automatically to the connected sales territory that I specified. Obviously, I can also add more filter statements just by adding it at the top. On the next screen, I can schedule it. So meaning when should it start, when should it end? If I don't have an end date, it will run until I end it on my own. Should it be daily, weekly, monthly, or do you wish every time after a data refresh happens that you send out the email or the subscription at the end? So this can be configured as well as the time, and is it active or not active? If I set it to non-active, it's just created, but it will not send out anything. And once I activate it, it will be, as the name says, active. Lastly, this is like the review page, so I can open up everything and see if it is configured as wished. And if I did so, I can say save and close. And now at 4:30, the subscription will work and send out 2 emails with my configuration done. Any questions so far? Anything unclear? Anything we should deep dive into?
So
This is for
I'm not
both,
sure if I
Pro and
missed it.
it's for both Pro and Service, or
Sorry, say again.
Pro? Which this is for both Pro and Service?
So this is
Hmm?
when you say both. So do you mean Power BI Report Server and Power BI Service, or do you mean Power BI Pro and capacity licensing?
Could you repeat the?
When you say both, do you mean Power BI Service and Power BI Report Server, or do you mean Power BI Pro license and Power BI Premium license?
Yeah, Pro and Premium license, the last one.
So as you see on the requirements, it has to be on a premium capacity or a fabric capacity. So a Power BI Pro license is not enough.
Okay, crystal clear.
Nicola, I guess you had also a question.
Yes, exactly. So in the past, we had a case where you wanted to send updates to individuals based on data which was targeted to them, and would not send an update if no data was in there. That's something we can do now in dynamic subscriptions, or I didn't quite get how far those filters go.
I'm not sure if I get the requirement. Can you explain a little bit more the requirement exactly?
So we had KPIs which each person had to individually track, and we want to send out email if they fell behind on some KPIs. Is that a case I can handle on dynamic subscriptions or not?
I think yes, because if the report has now your KPIs, you can filter it down to the user and just send it out. And I mean, the report itself will show then how far or if they are far behind the target or if they're even above. But this is what the report is showing. And the subscription itself is just sending the email once a day or whatever.
Okay, but I'll have to try it out. But cool feature. Thanks.
Okay. Any other question? Doesn't look like. So let me then move on to one of the last announcements. I mean, we announced already Copilot in Power BI that it's public preview right now. And during this announcement, we mentioned that it will be available until March for everyone, but we rolled it out even faster, meaning right now it's really for everyone out there. You can play around with it, test it out. The requirements for it are you need a premium or a Fabric capacity. If you work with Fabric, you will require an F64 or above. And you have to enable in the tenant settings the Copilot and Azure OpenAI service. One mark, if your data is outside of US and France, you would also need to enable another tenant setting called data send to Azure OpenAI to make it work at the end. All details about it, what happens, why does it need to be enabled and stuff can be found in this link below. But once enabled, you will be able to use it. And let me show you how Copilot looks like. So again, I'm on a Power BI report, and instead of a view mode, I go into my edit mode and we'll try really to edit it at the end. And once you enable it, you will see a Copilot button at the top. And if I click on it, I will get a prompt on the right-hand side. And what does it do is it's like a chatbot, meaning I can now describe what I wish. And Copilot gives me from the beginning always some suggestions that I can click on and try it out. And for example, I can say the first one, suggest some content for this report. Let me try it out. So if I click on it, the text will be below in my prompt, which I have to send now to Copilot just by hitting here the send button. And if I do so, it takes a few seconds, but Copilot will then, based on my semantic model, try to suggest some report pages. And in my case, I have 4 different pages. One is called sales performance by territory. Another one is a customer segmentation. Then we have an inventory management and a salesperson effectiveness. And it gives a little bit of a description of what this page will include. And if I wish, I can now just click here the create button. And by doing so, again, takes a few seconds, but Copilot will create now a new page within my existing report. Okay. When I tested it, it was a little bit faster, but nevertheless, once done, I hope at least.
Christian, F64, I'm new to Fabric. What does that mean and how do we check it? If we got F64, what does that mean?
Okay, while this is working, let me show. Fabric in general is created in Azure Portal like any other service. And if you create a capacity, you can choose the size of it. The smallest size is an F2 and the biggest size is an F2048. And F64 means, this is like the middle size if you wish, this is like the equivalent of a premium P1. This is what it means at the end. And an F128 is like a P2, this is like a P3, and so on and so on. Mm-hmm. And that's also one of the reasons why we say it has to be an F64, because an F32 is less than a P1 and just doesn't work at the end. And from here on, also the licensing changes a little bit when it comes to Power BI and so on. But the most important information is you need to go with an F64 if you wish to use Copilot.
Okay, thank you.
Sure. I think this was the wrong. There we are. Now, in the meantime, as you see, a new page has been created. It said, hey, created a revenue, profit, and tax analysis page. It's quite neat because I have already some KPIs at the top with a few visuals, and it's nothing else than a Power BI report. Meaning, obviously, I can click in it. I can drill down if it would be available, and so it's really working like a usual Power BI report. I can also go in and change the visuals on my own if I wish. So instead of having the stacked column chart, I can go to the bar chart, changing it. There we are. So as you see, Copilot is just here to really help me out creating something. It will not generate everything out of the box. I'm still here to have a look into it and make sure that it is as it should be at the end. But from a time perspective, how much time did I save just by typing 2-3 things into the prompt and having already a page? This is, from my point of view, really the awesome thing. And on top, it also took the same theme as I had before. So if you pay attention to it and you see how blue that is, it's the same blue that is used on my overview page. So I don't even have to take care about it as well. Gabor, a question.
Yeah, just a question. Does Copilot also create new measures, or it's just using the measures which are already created by me, by the user?
In this case, it's just reusing what's already there. But if you wish to create new measures within DAX, you have Copilot as well, which can help you to create DAX statements.
Okay, cool. Thanks.
Sure. And not only that you can create new pages, you can also really ask a little bit Copilot about your data. So for example, I can say, give me a summary of this page. Typing it, sending it, and again, takes a few seconds. Probably it's also the reason I used an F2 for this demo case. So the smallest one, probably if I would increase it, it would be a little bit faster. Nevertheless, oh, no, I'm using a trial. No, sorry, wrong info. I'm using a trial in the case. It's an F64. So, and I have now already a summary, which I can read, which I can copy, which whatever I wish to do, I can have it over there. And it's even referencing, if you pay attention, it's even referencing from where this information is coming from. Meaning if I click here on number 1, it's summarized the information from the cards. If I click, for example, number 2, it's coming from this visual over here. So you really see from where this is coming from. And not only can I have the summary in my prompt, I can also add it into my report itself. With the narrative visual, if I add it, until now, I could create a custom narrative like a text which will update and so on. This was already there, but now if I open it and Copilot is enabled, I can click on the Copilot. And in this case, I can say, okay, summarize me the data, probably give me an executive summary, make it a little bit funny with emojis, just to have some fun here. And on top, I can also say to which visuals should the summary be referenced. It says right now current page, but I can also go in and say I wish to select my whole report or just some specific visuals from a specific page. And based on it, Copilot should create a summary. Once selected, in my case, I take just a current page. I'm good with it. I say create.
Oui, tu peux, je simule.
This again, as you see, it takes a few seconds, but once there, we will have a similar summary of the whole report with 3 bullet points, a little bit highlighted. We have even some emojis there as requested, so pretty nice. But I can even go further and say, okay, compress it to max 100 words. Say create again. And once created, there we are. It's even more compressed with maximum 100 words, so you can really influence it. What you cannot do is I cannot go into the text now and update the text, as this is coming really from Copilot. Meaning if you wish to somehow adjust it, you need to go to the prompt, but the text itself is automatically given from Copilot. But because it's a visual, like any other visual as well, you can, for example, just replace this one, say, nope, don't like you. The summary can be placed here. I can save my I can save afterwards my report, and the summary is already there, and I created it in roughly 10 minutes, a new page with quite interesting KPIs and visuals in there. This is more or less it's the whole purpose of Copilot. So feel free to test it out, play around with it, provide feedback as it's in public preview right now. Let us know what works and what doesn't, and what you're expecting that works but still doesn't. So really, really test it out and play around with it. Any questions?
I have a small question.
Yes, hi Karim.
Hi Kristen. How does it work with filters? Is it adapting to what you change on the page? Is it regenerating the thing, or?
I'm not sure. Let me test. So if I take here midis, I would expect, yes, it does. As you see, it says visual has pending changes because I just selected now midis. So I refresh it. And then why do I need to refresh? Because it's sending again the filtered data now to OpenAI, and the OpenAI will provide us back the text. That's the reason why I have to say, yes, I have to refresh it.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Sure. Any further questions? Right, doesn't look like. Then let me switch back to the slides. One last thing to highlight, which is important from my point of view, is we got HIPAA and ISO certification. HIPAA is probably known from the pharma industry. This is a hospital industry, not pharma, sorry. This is a standard in the hospitality industry that makes sure that the data is processed in a secure way and stored in a secured way, stuff like this. And on top, we also have this ISO certification as well, focusing on the same area about security, making sure that no data will be shared between customers, stuff like this. For those who are aware of it, who are, let's say, have the security head on top, this could be quite interesting. So if you wish, check it out on this link and what exactly it means. But in summary, we just, for this certification, make sure that we securely save your data and securely transmit it. All right, that was it from the latest and greatest. Took a little bit more time than usual, but nevertheless, I'm now happy to hand over to the guys from Allgeier. So hearing about the metadata-driven orchestration to migrate a data warehouse to Fabric. Thank you very much. So Roman and Alex, the stage is yours.
Hello. Hi. So welcome myself, because I'm new to that, actually, to that user group. So first time here. I was encouraged by Alex. I guess he's here by the time. Yep. I don't know.
I'm here.
Hi. Hello. Yeah, or I did that presentation back in December, based on the customer journey we did finish then. And yeah, first things first, let's apologize for my English. So last time I had that presentation, figure out at the end of the presentation that everybody was speaking German. So, but today I'll try again in English. So yeah, but yeah. Good. Okay, so let's share slides.
Participation is everything. It's like the Olympics.
Thank you. Present. So I slightly adapt the title because I've found it kind of a little bit misleading. So yeah, it's new. It's like we using metadata orchestration in Microsoft Fabric project, not to migrate to a Fabric project. Yeah, what is it about? Like we had a project with. Sorry.
You're not sharing yet, Roman, huh?
Oh, sorry. Bad. Can't display content. Let's try different sharing screen. Let's see if this works.
Yep, we can see.
Yeah, so presenting team didn't work. Thanks. Okay. The agenda, like first some words about me, where do I come from, then the project itself, then some words about the architecture, some insights, and last but not least, the Q&A section. Yeah. Okay, yes, I'm from Allgeier, as some guys in here as well. I'm the DPG CTO, but I still work as a consultant, technology consultant for a lot of customer. You can ask me about Azure architecture, like I did some Synapse projects, also one Fabric project, and then DevOps. Also, I'm pretty much interested in DevOps and how to deploy stuff to Azure, automate things. And then last but not least, I come from like the SharePoint development. I did a lot of SharePoint development in the past. Yeah, I don't get rid of that, but anyway, I did almost 10 years of SharePoint. So
too many people and data come from SharePoint. I don't know why.
Seems like. Yes, back in 2007, I started as developer, like C# and some front-end development. Then I get the role of head of engineering in 2013, and then 2019 I was like DPG of CTO. Topics SharePoint back from 2007 on-prem, then start with Azure in 2015 around, and I went to Alex's team actually, and doing a lot of data stuff. And yeah, so that's kind of what I did. So just to understand where I come from. Okay, next point, project. We did that project for Tommen. It's I would say like it's a recycling company. And we did reporting the first thing, or like we did the offering for Azure Synapse for them, and then Fabric showed up last April, I guess it was, on the Build conference, and then the customer itself decided to go. Sorry. What is that? Okay, decided to go with Fabric, which was new. The Tommen had like, or still have this ERP software in place, which is like on-prem and uses SQL Server as data storage. And they use IBM Cognos, or used IBM, or still do use IBM Cognos for the reporting. The project goals was like being a little bit more independent from the contractor. So our main goal was to empower the customer itself to do their own work in Power BI and in Fabric. So it was kind of like a coaching project, kind of thing. We do that a lot and have really good experience in that. So like having the customer doing things on his own, and just we do like more coaching if necessary. Then more modernization, consolidation of the existing oops, sorry, but of the existing environment, and then lower runtime and support costs, reduce complexity, that really a lot of tools and servers and stuff in place, and then reduce the product variety and licensing. So just in the end, like less costs. Adding self-service BI capabilities, that was kind of the main point. They do want to do their own reports and play around with numbers, crunching numbers kind of thing. And with the Cognos, they were like bound to the old contractor. So they always had to go to them and put requirements in place and then wait for the report. And yeah, last but not least, I already said it, like empower the customer itself to do like everything from the SQL data to the reporting. Cognos versus Power BI. So I'm not into I don't know like Cognos itself quite well, but yeah, we've seen a lot of reports, and most of them are like kind of unsexy, as Alex likes to say. And it's like that you choose what you want to see, like the year and what report, and then you click like please render, and then you wait, and then after some seconds, minutes, it pops up and it's like static. So, and from the Power BI side, we know that it's like more dynamic. You can click around and everything is calculated in place and stuff like that. So make BI sexy again. I think that's pretty much what we did here. And the customer did like what he actually get from the Power BI reports. Thanks to Olga and Georg.
And that's not a sexy report. We've got a couple of sexier reports than that, but it's just an example of one that we migrated.
Okay, sorry about that. I took this screenshot, I don't know, like in the middle of the project. Okay, what did we have on the SQL server side? We also had like SSIS in place for doing the ETL process, and they have like 10 databases, 400 tables, 600 views, 30 SSIS package, 200 SSIS tasks, and lots of tools to gluing stuff together and things like that. And everything was hosted by another contractor, and yeah, it was like every time they need an additional field, it took like 1 month to have that data available on the other side. Yes, that's kind of the big picture of the old ETL process. Yeah, that's helped us to like getting some insights and see which where are.
Oh no, Martin, this is our documentation that we had to make.
Okay.
This is us documenting it in hindsight.
Okay, so that's, I would have been surprised. Sorry, I had to put that down.
No
Okay,
documentation.
Yeah.
None.
Okay. Just go on.
So it's Miro, and Miro is quite good tool, but yeah, not probably the best for visualization.
We made Miro crash trying to document.
Yes, and we also fixed some bugs together with Miro to have that picture up and running. So yeah.
We reach the end of the infinite canvas.
Yes, kind of then. Anyhow, initial situation. Sorry. Yes, it's quite small, but in the end we have like this on-prem ERP database here, SQL, which I was talking about, and then we had like this ETL process up here. Do you see my mouse pointer? Actually, I don't know. Yeah, should.
Yeah, we can see a mouse. Just
Okay, which is like the ETL process in SSIS, which actually does the transformation for the IBM Cognos, and then we have some static reports which are created on daily basis and sent via email, and then we have some additional access databases and excellent stuff here. Then they are build their own like data warehouse where they put own report stuff, and yeah, that was like kind of the situation we met when we get there. And also there's always an Excel around which has like the master data in it, just to provide like mappings or targets or whatever. Then they have like SAP and a lot of different data sources. It's not like a complete picture, and they already did some Power BI reports on that, but yeah, so it's just was using the data gateway to the on-prem data warehouse they built. This presentation is actually about phase 1 and 2. There were more phases. Currently, we are in phase 3. And the end of phase 1 and 2 was like to remove all that on-prem stuff, except for the ERP database, which they have to use still using ERP software. And here's still Synapse. That was like the initial idea, and now it's Fabric. But yeah, we have same concept here, but yeah, a little bit different. The project schedule, like we were starting back in December 1 year ago, and the project start was in June actually, and then we built up the whole Fabric. We did a lot of tests because we didn't know about Fabric, and we had to get like the knowledge itself before we can coach them doing their own stuff in Fabric. Then parallel, we did like the Cognos migration, ETL migration, and we actually were finished mid-December, more or less. There's still some open tasks, but yeah, most of the stuff were done mid-December. Good. So the initial plan was, as I said, like using SQL Server here and then use Azure Synapse and Power BI, but we got away from that. Mainly the customer said like, we want to use Fabric because it's new and we want to take that risk and go for it. So that's why we choose Fabric. So, and we have a lot of different subsystems here as which acting as source as well. To the architecture, we did use some well-known concepts which we use in Synapse and before on SQL Server as well, like the common ETL process. We didn't want to rewrite the whole ETL process because you have seen there was like a whole bunch of tables and views, and you cannot like redo all that stuff which done in the last 20 years within 3 months. So we decided to just take most of the ETL process, like the SQL statement, just remove some tables which are like stores in between. So we get rid of them, but in the end, like the whole data flow or the whole ETL process, which you've seen before, did stay the same. Yes, so we use that extract, transform, load picture or yes. And another thing we did use is like the Medallion architecture, which consists of bronze, silver, and gold layer. So we do load the SQL database from the ERP system and some SAP and Excel and whatever source system to the browser layer, and then we do like a lot of conversion. The whole ETL process is located in the silver layer, and finally we have that gold layer here, which we use as source for the reporting then. I get a little bit more into details some slide later here.
May I ask a question?
Yeah, sure.
Were you updating any data that you were using a data warehouse, or?
What do you mean updating data? So we have like this absurd concept, or what do you mean?
If you would aggregate the data and not modify it, just read it, then a lakehouse could be sufficient. Data warehouse, to the best of my knowledge, you use if you modifying data.
Yeah. So the raw data goes into the lakehouse. So the bronze is the lakehouse raw data, untransformed. It's beautiful. It's fast. And then then we transform the data. We have to apply a whole bunch of business logic onto it, and we do that in the silver layer. And because it gave us the best capabilities, also stored procedures that could be executed. So the silver layer for the transformation, and then it goes back into a lakehouse in the gold layer.
Okay.
So that we can have direct lake capabilities at the end.
Thank you.
Yeah, we come to that, some more details. It's just like we use that medallion architecture concept. Yeah, and the third concept we use, it's like there's a blog post. Probably we can put that link to the chat. That's really great, and it's really safe our ass. Sorry about that. Just like to get rid of the SSIS task, which actually did nothing else than just copy stuff from A to B. And so we sort of like converting that SSIS package to like pipelines in Fabric. But you don't want to have like for every entity, for every table, and for every view, you don't want to have like a copy activity. So we thought of this metadata-driven architecture, which actually has like an metadata orchestration database, which is nothing else like a table which tells the pipeline which entity or which table to be loaded into the bronze layer. So we have like this data source SQL server, and then like this 200 tables to load, and then we have here like one table which says source, take table A, take table B, apply that SQL statement to that table, and load the whole data into the lakehouse on the bronze layer. So yeah, that's the concept. The picture comes from that community block here. We just slightly changed some stuff here, but from the concept itself, it works quite well. So we kind of reduced the complexity and maintenance of that whole, and we ended up with quite a simple pipeline, just having like a for each loop over this table, doing like this linear execution of SQL statements, copying data from A to B.
A couple of things I'd like to add here quickly. First, the copy data task is awesome because we didn't have to specify the target schema. It automatically generated the target schema, which was really important for this to work. So we could just simply say execute the statement and then pump it out and parameterize it. So it's not hard coded, the schema. We had, I think, in the end, something like over 100 tables we had to read out and copy from. That would have been no fun, as like Roman said. And one last thing I just want to add to this diagram. Jean suggested putting the orchestration database separate to Fabric into Azure and saying, hey, host that in the Azure SQL database. Jean never told us why she thought that's a good idea. In hindsight, I wish we would have stuck with Jean's design. We ended up doing the orchestration database in Fabric using a warehouse to be the orchestration database. And little tip to anybody in the room, don't do that. The warehouse is not designed for microtransactions. It's just simply not. So many performance problems, deadlocking, so many issues reading and writing data to the warehouse if you're doing it frequently. It's great for bulk loads, but for the Delta format and the way it's implemented, don't do it. If you're planning on doing a metadata-driven architecture, use a simple Azure SQL database. It's designed for microtransactions, and you'll have much more fun with it. Just a little learning along the way. Should have stuck to the blueprint.
Thank you, Alex.
Thomas,
oh yeah.
Sorry, I've got a really quick question. If you can just move forward once more. Great tip with the Azure SQL database. Actually, I was wondering, where did you put it? Same question with the data factory orchestration. Did you see any issues with the data pipelines in Fabric versus using Azure Data Factory? Or did that go pretty well?
Well, it went pretty well. So yeah, we didn't have all the features available to us that we have in Azure Data Factory, and there was pain involved. But from a simple, I need a copy of SQL database from A to B, it went pretty well. The biggest issue you'll find is data gateway still not supported.
Okay.
So copying an on-premise database into Fabric via pipelines requires some clever thinking, but Roman will get to that later.
Awesome. Thanks a lot. Cool.
Thanks. Yeah, so this was like the first draft, or probably not first, but yeah, the draft of the architecture we came up with. So we have like this in gray here, this on-prem data sources mainly, some are in the cloud as well. And then we, as Alex said, we weren't able to use the data gateway to copy data directly from an on-prem system. So we decided to go for an Azure SQL database and do like a replication job from the on-prem to the cloud. It's not really nice, but it works quite well. So it's fast, it's not too expensive, it's just working out great. So, and then we had actually that SQL database in cloud, which is actually the same like on-prem, and from there we could use data pipelines for doing like SQL scripting to that cloud database, Azure database, for copying stuff to the Lakehouse here. Yeah.
Yes, pass.
What? Pass.
Martin. Yeah, Martin was asking if it's pass.
Okay.
So I'll answer in text.
Good. We also use like SharePoint for having some Excels again. There's always an Excel, and we put that, or we decided to put those Excel, those mapping Excel, those like we have kind of what's like a product mapping, product type mapping stuff, which is quite steady. We put that to SharePoint, and we also managed to like updating the Excel based on the data from the SQL, and just saying, hey, please go to that Excel, do your manual mapping and save the Excel again. On the next import, we take the data into the into Fabric, and then the data was there for like doing mapping and stuff, whatever. So important thing here is like Lakehouses here, as Alex said, on the bronze layer, then silver, because we had a lot of SQL statements which work quite well in the warehouse, and then another pipeline which actually did the transformation, or like we also used here the metadata-driven architecture to like triggering those views and the whole ETL process you see or you saw, just to transform the data and put it into the gold layer. And here we have like a temporary persistence kind of storage here, just to persist the outcome of the ETL process we did. Like this happens like once a day. I guess we started at 4 o'clock, and like it took like 2 hours, and then we had like the gold layer here for having the the data set or semantic models here on the reporting side to give or to provide data actually for the reporting. Important thing on the right side is like we have the corporate reporting, which actually is driven by the IT. So they provide the semantic models to the people, to the report people inside the company. And we also allow self-service, so they can build their own semantic models based on the corporate models and do their own reporting using Excel or whatever data sources as well. So yeah. And here on the bottom, you see the orchestration database, which actually consists of Lakehouse, which is more for logging purposes. So we put all the log files in the Lakehouse, and the warehouse is more for the like SQL statements or orchestration stuff. Good. Next, Lakehouse warehouse. I'm sure you have seen those slides 100 times. Probably where we did the decision for like this Lakehouse warehouse, Lakehouse architecture, and I guess the difference, or like how can I say, the most important points here, which differs actually Lakehouse in our case to warehouse, was like this unstructured kind of data compared to structured data. So for structured data, we use like warehouse, and for unstructured data, we use Lakehouse. And then SQL on the warehouse side, and PySpark or Python, and sometimes SQL on the Lakehouse side. Yeah, but you can do a lot of things with warehouse or Lakehouse, and yeah, there's like some differences, and you have to be aware of them and just put the right thing in place in the end. Good. Fabric, another well-known slide from Microsoft. I guess I don't have to go into that. Last presentation I had to explain what Fabric is. Yeah, I skipped that. So as I said, I come from the Synapse world, and compare Fabric mostly to the Synapse world. So what do we get with Fabric? We have like this software as a service concept, which is quite well. So you don't have to care about infrastructure, which actually for me it's sad, because I cannot configure any service and stuff like that. But yeah, from a customer perspective, it's quite easy, because it just have all there. You don't have to provide some Azure resources and do authentication, stuff like that. It's all inclusive, so you have the whole Synapse thing here, pipeline stuff, and you also have like the Power BI thing, and the machine learning components, which are all also placed, also part of that Fabric. So great product overall, but yeah, it's not finished. It's serverless only. On the Synapse end, we can decide between serverless and like dedicated SQL pools. And Spark pools, we have them on Synapse and Fabric side, but on the Fabric side, they're like more, how can I say, they're like just there when you need them.
Up standby.
Yeah, in Synapse, you always have to like start the Spark pool and wait for like 2 minutes till you can work on it. And on the Fabric side, it's really great. You have them like in hot standby. You just can play your Python notebook, and it just runs within some seconds. And yeah, no infrastructure. So yeah, let's come to the truth. So that's like our again, comparison between Synapse and Fabric. So there was quite of a disappointment. Sometimes we were a little bit disappointed with the feature we had in Fabric, because we already know them from Synapse. So especially DevOps, is totally unfinished right now. So we have like this, I would say 20-30% of the feature we do have in Synapse. So we do not have like branching. There are a lot of issues with the Git integration, a lot of Git, a lot of objects in Fabric are not unsupported still. So the roadmap shows that they will come in Q1, Q2 of this year, probably Q3. But in Synapse, you have that stuff already there. So if you like move from Synapse to Fabric, you miss them. It's just like, it's not cool if you lose those kind of things. Then co-working like on same object. So you imagine like you have two people working on Fabric and both of them working on the same data pipeline. It just like messes up. So the last one who pressed the save button really saves the pipeline. So yeah, and you don't have any notification on that somebody else is working on that pipeline. And again, no branching here. In Synapse, you have like your own branch. You can do whatever you want. And when you merge your branch against to the master branch, then you will find out that somebody else did some work on that pipeline. Then pipeline functionality, like the data pipeline functionality itself, has like much less activities in the end. So we currently have just like 50% of all the activities we have in Synapse. So, but they come like slowly, they put them online, but yeah, it takes quite long, I think. Data sources, you have much more possibilities to grab data from different systems in Synapse using the integration runtime, and you don't have them in Fabric using the data gateway. Synapse data flows are missing. Don't confuse them with data flows in Power BI, but when you know Synapse, there were like data flows, which are like something between data pipelines and notebooks. So you could click together your data pipeline and had a lot of nice functionality without coding. So I really miss them, and they're just not there. And still a lot of bugs, and yeah, we have that general availability, which was announced in December, I guess. But yeah, it's still like that picture. I don't know if probably some more DevOps capabilities are in place there, but there is still a lot of things to do to get that project finished. It's kind of like in Synapse itself. So like 3 years ago, we had a lot of activity missing, a lot of bugs in Synapse as well. So yeah, it's like kind of the Microsoft way to do stuff here.
Banana software. It ripens
yeah.
with the customer.
Yeah. But don't get me wrong, it's a great product, and I just think it needs some more time to get finished and yeah, get rid of those nasty bugs. Insights. So yeah, that's like what we saw in the project. Some hints, kind of thing. Alex, you can help wherever you want. Like we had. Okay, that's more about the project. I skipped that, but it's like the quantity structure we had. Like we had a lot of update and inserts during those days. We had like this one main load per day where we actually get data from this ERP software. Then we had some subloads. So some tables are like more often get refreshed during the day for some hourly reporting. And that's again like a big advantage to the metadata driven architecture, because you just can mark the tables you want to update hourly and then rerun the scripts, and then you have all those data available. And then we had some streaming data. Probably Alex can tell something about that, but it's not part of that presentation here. Yes.
If we have time later, I'll talk about
let's
real
see.
time.
Then extract, so some of them we already mentioned, like we have that ETL process where we have to put the SQL data to Fabric. The first thing we tried is like using Data Gateway and Dataflow Gen 1 to put the data into Fabric. So, and this completely not work because of different reasons. So no data pipeline support. Yeah, okay. No parameterization. So you couldn't run like metadata-driven architecture with Dataflow. So, but I don't know. Probably parameterization is there right now. I don't know. And then we had that nasty limitation of 50 queries per data flow, and it doesn't mean you can do like 50 SQL statements, not SQL statements, 50 imports of like tables. It's like every import uses kind of 4 SQL or 4 queries, and then you end up with like 1 data flow per around 10 to 12 entities. So for 200 tables, it's like 20 data flows, which wasn't maintainable. And issues with types. So there are different data types than in SQL Server. So you end up with some strange behavior because some data types just couldn't be converted. And it was quite expensive in the end. So yeah, really cost a lot of money. So we get away from that idea using data flows, and we went to the other way, which we do like this cloud replication, and then this metadata-driven architecture, which turned out quite well and was much more efficient, much more faster, and then also cheaper in the end. Yeah, no limitations, less issues with types, and cheaper. So yeah, last December, I guess, or November, Microsoft came up with those slides on the Microsoft Fabric community, partner community, sorry, and they discussed that topic, how to get data from on-premise to Fabric. So, and they came up with Dataflow Gen 1. Yeah, we tried it. It didn't work well for us. It works, like but not for as much data as we had. Then,
by the way, you keep on saying Gen 1. You mean Gen 2?
Gen 2.
Yes.
Did I say Gen 1? Anyway,
yes.
Gen 2. Good. Then method 2 was like using copy pipelines, data pipelines, copy activity. But yeah, they came up with the idea of like opening your infrastructure and just open port, whatever, just to access them from on-prem. We didn't think that's a really good idea, so yeah, we did the copy. And the third method, which should come, I guess, next month or in April or so, was like using copy pipelines together with the data gateway. But that wasn't possible so far. Yeah, that's probably the best way in the end. But yeah, personally, I wouldn't do that. But yeah, you have to know yourself. Okay, then the transformations we did, I already said, we had like Lakehouse, Lakehouse concept where we put all those views and tables and stuff in the warehouse and just have like the raw data here, and the pipeline which actually triggers the whole SQL process here using data from the Lakehouse to convert it to the gold layer. Also combining, aggregating data. Then the load from the ETL process. Now we have the gold layer here, like this Lakehouse we've seen on the previous slide. Then we did add some semantic models. We use import, we use direct lake mode to get the data actually from the Lakehouse to those models. We have different models for HR, for commodities, for logistic, just to serve the self-service concept. And as I said, like the corporate here, which provided by the IT, and the self-service, which allows some power users to do their own reporting. Ducktape-Devops, yeah, that picture came up, I don't know, like in November, where we realized that we don't get those features in Fabric to do like proper DevOps process. So yeah, what's currently or still working out of the box is like syncing or doing like a synchronization with reports, semantic models. They work as well, and notebooks. You can set up a Git repo on Azure DevOps and just put them or synchronize them within that Git repo, but still no branching there. It's just like one branch, one workspace. Lakehouse works, but not as well, still buggy. Yeah, probably Alex can say something about that. And then we added other stuff like deployment pipelines, data pipelines, where we had to effectively like copy those. There's like this save as dialog where you can like we have like this concept of like dev, test, and prod. And we want to make sure that like development just takes place on the development server. So we had to move like the whole objects, pipeline stuff to the test and then do the production. And Fabric makes it quite hard to do that. You can use the pipelines in Power BI, but not for everything. Just some parts work there. And for like effective copy data pipelines, you had to use like save as, but it wasn't possible to have like data pipelines copied where actually call sub pipelines in the end.
Yeah.
So there was a lot of manual work there.
I'll quickly jump in here. So you can do save as from one workspace to save it into another workspace. Works great with the pipeline as long as you don't have a sub pipeline embedded. If you're calling up a sub pipeline, so if any kind of orchestration is happening, and what happens is that save as will give you a 400 error message, won't work. And my assumption right now is because the sub pipeline is referred to by its GUID, when it tries to save it across, it actually crashes and burns. And the other elements actually worked quite well. So if I had a copy data job that said copy my SQL data from on-prem to a Lakehouse, it would actually map to the correct Lakehouse in the workspace. So I was kind of impressed by that. When we said now run a script on the warehouse, that crashed. So I had to fix those manually. And that wasn't a big deal. It was easy to clean those up. But whenever I had a sub pipeline being called, save as just didn't work at all. So we had to find other ways of trying to get the pipelines across from dev to prod. And in the end, I used JSLint and JSONata to clean up the JSON from both pipelines to compare them to make sure that the production pipeline looked the same as it did in development. Little thing about Lakehouse not working. So while the deployment pipeline in Power BI will deploy a Lakehouse to the target, we came across a wonderful bug that any data flow that then wants to use the Lakehouse as a destination kept on going to the wrong Lakehouse. So I picked the Lakehouse in the new workspace, and it showed me all the tables. And I'm going, but the tables haven't been created yet. This Lakehouse is empty. But the tables were there, and then I couldn't actually use a single data flow to populate any data because this Lakehouse is in a state of limbo. Nowhere else do I see these tables except for in the data flow destination dialog box, where suddenly pops up and has some phantom tables pop up. And because he's still pulling some metadata, God knows from where. So be careful. What we did do in the end is we created the Lakehouse from scratch with the same name instead of deploying it via the pipeline, and that worked and it behaved nicely.
At least we could use Azure Studio to deploy all the SQL tables and views, and that works quite well. And you also can use like the Git integration of the Azure Studio to actually store your state of SQL files to the Azure DevOps. So,
and you can even use Azure DevOps to deploy the DAC pack. So you can create a DAC pack from your source and deploy that to the destination, and that works really nicely. And you can deploy virtually all artifacts in a warehouse, and you can deploy SQL views on a lakehouse.
Yeah, but in the end, we did like we did a lot of optimization to that process, but we still use like 1 day for doing one deployment from test to production. So yeah, that's way too long, and it's like you had a lot of manual steps which could go wrong, and that's actually no DevOps process. So yeah, there's a lot of things to do till it gets really usable. So I don't know why they didn't give any weight to that topic, because I think it's quite important, and you don't want to work on your production environment to do stuff. Yes. Okay. Another topic we did get into was like the notification or the monitoring. So if a pipeline goes wrong, if there were issues converting, stuff like that, and we was ending up using like an Outlook activity, so you can send mails if something go wrong. So yeah, at least mails. You can also use Teams. Customer didn't want that, so like sending a team message if something in your import goes wrong isn't actually the best way, but I think it's better than mail. But anyway, we ended up with mail. Again, in Synapse, you have like this Azure Monitor where you can you can do analysis on the error and summarize them and stuff like that, but you don't have that. And Fabric itself has its reporting, but it's mainly into the UI. So you always have to get into the UI to see the error. So there's actually no notification, but we ended up like sending links to the reports which are located in the UI, and then in the email you can click on that link, and then you ended up in the UI where the error is shown. So yeah, but it's not the best way, but so far it's the only kind of way to do that. Yeah, at least we had some fun with the message which came daily. So we implemented a daily choke. That was one of the greatest feature, I guess. The customer really enjoyed it, and it took like 15 minutes. So yeah, it was fun. Anyhow, self-service and mapping, I already said that, like we had excellent place. We use SharePoint for putting like those manual mapping files, master data files into, and we consume them as files, copy them to the OneLake, and then read them and included that into the ETL transformation itself. Tools, Microsoft Fabric, yeah. Data Studio, which I guess it's not preview anymore. It wasn't preview, but the version which actually works with Fabric was preview. So you had to go for the preview channel here. Visual Studio Code for the notebooks, I guess we use that. Then OneLake Explorer, it's okay to copy files around stuff. First, we thought of managing the master data mapping files with OneLake Explorer, but there's actually no concept of role, as you cannot like give permission to one folder just to make sure that nobody else can edit files, stuff like that. So it's good for like putting files there, seeing what's there, and yeah, as like explore the data lake. It's really great. And
folder security is on the roadmap, but it's not there yet.
Power BI Desktop and Azure DevOps. Yeah. Costs. Your topic.
Okay, I'll take over a couple of topics. Early on, we're trying to figure out how much is this going to cost the customer once the free days are over. By the way, some of you have noticed the free days are coming to a close. Yeah, the countdown started roughly 2 weeks ago. Those 60 days are going to end up at 0 now, and then we'll have to start paying for it. I must say the capacity metrics report, the original one from Premium, and now it's been adopted for Fabric, has been really, really useful to understand where are the costs actually being incurred, what's chewing through these capacity units. Important thing is everything costs capacity units. Not everything. Some things are for free. But anything that moves data, anything that processes data and uses up CPUs, that's where the main costs come from. One thing we noticed early on, that effectively data flows, they cost a lot more CPU than copy data pipelines. Copy data activities and pipelines are really streamlined. They're very efficient. They use a very few CPUs, and as such, also very few capacity units. So if you're looking at cost optimizations, do look at reducing the amount of data flows that you've got. I actually went, I was so cheeky. For one process, we're querying SuccessFactors, and SuccessFactors API is nasty. We had to write a whole bunch of Power Query code and Power Query functions to get the data out of SuccessFactors ready for reporting. What we ended up doing is I took the data flows, put them into a separate workspace, plugged in Azure as my storage account underneath that one particular workspace. So the data flows are running in a pro workspace, generating the data in blob storage, and then I'm just using copy data utility to pull the data back into the warehouse, and that's really cheap. So that's a little trick, a little workaround to save on your costs. If you've got really complicated data flows, big nasty data flows, put them into a pro workspace, plug in Azure storage underneath it, and then just have a second step to pull the data from storage into your Fabric workspace. You can save yourself a lot of money. Question, can you modify the underlying semantic model of the capacity metrics app, e.g. add user info regarding which unit? You can change the report itself. You can change the visuals. You can add new visuals to it, new report pages, but you cannot change the semantic model. So you're stuck with, it's like a template app. You're stuck with whatever semantic model the Fabric team has made available to you. But we have made customizations to the report and generated new report pages and new visuals to get a better understanding of some metrics that were more important to us. Do you want to move to the next screen so I can show something? So this is an example of the Fabric capacity metrics report. And oh, this is a GIF that you made. Okay. And wow. Didn't expect that, Roman. Do we have a screenshot?
It's from Microsoft.
Ah, okay, it's Microsoft's GIF. Okay. So effectively, an important thing that the easy calculation that I hope is going to work out in my favor is you can find out how many capacity units you've used up over the last 14 days. Like down here, we got 84,700 capacity units. And at the very bottom on the table, you'll see the first column, the CUs at the bottom, capacity units per second. Take that number. You can also add a filter and say, show me 1 day, show me 10 days, pick a day. Take that number and just divide it by 86,400, because that is how many seconds there are in a day. And then you'll know how many capacity, effectively how many capacity units you're actually going to need. So if you've got 160,000 capacity units you use on that day, you will definitely need an F2 to cover that day. Now, here comes burst mode, which is, I believe, really good, but also very dangerous. Microsoft's Fabric capacity runs in a burst mode, non-stop burst mode, as in if you want to run a massive pipeline that suddenly needs 16 CPUs for the next 5 minutes, Fabric will say, go ahead, be my day. Yeah? Here's all the capacity you need to do that. Although you've only got an F2, which is officially it's got like half a CPU, you'll get 16 CPUs for the next 5 minutes. What it then does, and you can see that on the screenshot on the left-hand side, it will create a whole bunch of overage. It'll say, okay, you've gone over your limit now, over 5 minutes. You have now got a debt of, let's say, 20,000 capacity unit seconds that your F2 didn't cover. You now have to start paying off that debt. So what you'll see is all the blue bars that are going down is you paying off that debt over time. Yeah, that's your burn down of that debt. And then the green bars is like, oh, I just kicked off another pipeline and I increased that debt again. The red line effectively shows you your cumulative debt that you've got going on right now. So on the one side, I love this because I get massive great performance. I can run a pipeline in 5 minutes, it's done. I don't have to wait 2 hours for the pipeline to complete. But I have to be careful that my workload doesn't all bundle in one single area. So if all of my workload for the whole day happens from 9 until 10, my users at 10:30 are not going to have any fun because they're going to be throttled, they're going to be slowed down, they're going to have effectively denial of services that they're going to get until you've paid off enough of your debt to actually then work normally again. Thomas, you got your hand up.
Yes, can you actually disable that setting?
No, it's built in.
Or...
It's the way they've designed it.
Okay.
It's not a toggle you can switch on or off. It's just the way they designed fabric capacity. So the way around it is you have to effectively have more capacity units if you're going to be generating a lot of debt. Oh, Christian's got an answer to that.
Not quite an answer, but more as well an information. First of all, how the calculation is done with Fabric is, let's say, quite complicated, or we have to get used to it because, you explain it very well from my point of view, because the main message is we're not looking anymore at peak times, we're looking now at average times. And the thing is, it's not only about interactive operation. This is what Alex explained, because you will get throttled after 10 minutes if you do not pay your debt and so on. It works a little bit differently with background operations, because in there we calculate an average over 24 hours. And this makes it really, let's say, complicated again to make, let's say, an assumption what kind of fabric capacity you would need. And I think the easiest approach is really to go what Alex said as well. Take the CUs, divide it, and then you have an estimation of what can be used. Nevertheless, it could also mean that you probably can use a little bit less, or you would need a little bit more because of this functionality, what we call smoothing. This is what it does, that you can pay back at the end. I just wanted to highlight that because the background operation is a little bit different calculated. It's about the 24-hour average, but nevertheless, yeah, the rest is very well explained, I would say.
Thank you, Christian. So yeah, you'll actually, quite a few of the reports will show you which 24-hour operations are having an impact right now as well. And you can bump up your fabric capacity temporarily to a higher CU and then take it down again. And right now, it's not quite the same API calls as you have with Power BI embedded, but I think we're going to be able to get there pretty quickly. So you can do a little bit of juggling. That's what we're actually planning on doing for this customer, to maybe just bump up the CUs for an hour, just to make sure we don't generate too much debt to then impact users. The background operations, what you'll notice, they'll run slower. They'll take longer to complete. They will also more often encounter also stop gaps. Like I've noticed, like, okay, sorry, SQL Server not unavailable, connection refused. So put in a couple of retry loops in your pipelines if you're planning on getting into that scenario, because you might actually, even in the background, if you're really bad, if you be really bad boy, you will also start to get a couple of connection refused settings. But in what we've noticed so far, most of it was it slows down, pipelines take longer to complete, the duration is longer, and most of the visible throttling was in the front end. Okay, so do use the capacity metrics report. It takes some getting used to figuring out what the numbers say. If you're totally confused, take the number, divide by 86,400. That's how many seconds there are in a day, and you will start to get an idea for how many units you're actually using up per day, and that'll give you an idea of what you need to plan for. So for this customer right now that we're running quite a few pipelines, they've got quite a few daily pipelines running now. I'm doing every hour real-time integration of prices, so the market prices are important, and they need to then combine them with the stock and combine them with the production orders. We are at F8, so we're looking at 8 capacity units that we need to run this ship. I would suggest, if you can, go a little bit higher, because that is just looking at your day-to-day business. What about development? What about testing? What about, let's create a couple of new pipelines. Oh, I need to copy my data 5 times until it works. You need to have a little bit of breathing room for that as well. But with F8, I think, because we have still been quite heavily in development mode, we'll be able to cover development as well for this customer. Okay, something else I want to talk about quickly is testing. So an important element here was, how can we prove that we finished? And how can we prove that everything in Fabric is working like it used to do on premise? And what we effectively ended up doing was we're running a daily data flow, because that was the easiest way to do it right now. A data flow that copies all the big tables that we needed to check. I think we had like 60 or 70 tables in total from the final data warehouse. So remember, we're going from 400 source tables. We're taking roughly 200 of those tables. We're transforming them into the final semantic model, which has, I think, something like 50 tables. So all we had to do is check 50 tables. So we've got the process running already right now in SSIS and on-premise, generating this data warehouse. So we took the generated data warehouse, copied that across, and in this case with data flows. And then we compared that to what we're generating using Fabric. So I could quite easily see how many rows did the old process generate, how many rows do I have now. We built a report that not only compares the amount of rows, but also compares the actual contents. So using an accept SQL function, we ran show me everything in this table except for what you have in that table. And it compares 10, 15, 20 columns, depending how big the table was. And so we could do a data by data comparison using a very simple SQL statement. Take some time to execute, but it worked really well. So we compared data types. So we were comparing what's the source data type with the destination data type. We made a mistake. We accidentally made a date into an integer and things like that. We compared how many rows. We compared what's in that table, what's in the rows. And step by step by step, we then managed to reach 100%. So this was virtually on the 31st of December. I managed to get that report to show 100%. All tables, all rows were within a 0.01% margin of error that we were happy with. To be able to say, yes, the new Fabric environment has exactly the same data as the previous environment had. And now we can start focusing on the next phase of the project. So I can only recommend you guys build yourself such a report to prove that you're progressing. And the magic word to use is accept. A simple SQL statement that allows you to compare data between 2 tables quite nicely. Yay. So, Roman, back to you.
Thanks, Alex. Yeah, we're getting to the end, I guess, slowly. Okay, so lessons learned. Yeah, we heard it. Fabric is not yet done. Still a great product, I guess. 1 year, 2 year could be a really great product when everything is there, everything on the roadmap is there, and all the bugs are gone. But so far, it's like, yeah, it's a bit challenging, I would say. And there's always a workaround. So we expected a lot of like you do something and then you see, oh, it's too expensive, it's not working, it's not nice, and then you think of something else. And the great thing in Fabric, you have lots of ways to do things. So in the end, you find more or less, we find for every issue like one possible way to go to make it work. There's always a tool. Yeah, there's always a tool. You see a lot of tools which are built around Fabric, helping, doing stuff and providing stuff. But it would be great if everything in the UI comes sooner or later. Support, yeah, we expected. So like when you raise an issue, the issue was like taken, but sometimes they had just too many inputs there. So you went on like kind of a whole waiting list, and then you always get the same emails. Yes, we take care of your issue. Please hold the line, stuff like that. So, but yeah, most of the bugs were at least put somewhere, and they grab it and fix it somewhere. But yeah, it just took long time to fix some bugs, which are critical, I would say. Yeah, and then we like get to those to this like cost-driven architecture hashtag, which was really challenging to figure out which is like the cheapest way to do stuff. So in the beginning of the project, there was like no knowledge about how this works with capacity, and we had those big F64 free license where everything is golden and everything works quite well, but it costs what is the price, like 8,000 francs a month or something like that. That wasn't just like a way to go for our customers. So we had to always keep an eye on the cost which we generate doing stuff, and that's really hard when like 5 developers doing stuff on the dev, so you don't actually know in the end what costs are being generated by whom. And so we ended up doing like a second stage where we put all the finalized objects, and we attach there like an F2 license just to see what's the effective workload which is generated with our pipelines. So
that was painful.
Yeah, it was. But yeah, I guess we find a pretty good way to like lower the costs doing everything we would, and the customer now pays less than he did on the on-premise for doing the same stuff. Yeah. Lessons learned. Why Fabric? Yeah, already said that. SaaS, no infrastructure. It's just their unified security concept. So you have all those row-level securities and data masking stuff, which is like consistent from the source to the report. You don't have to care about some of them concept implementing yourself. So it's just there and all in one. When is the right time to get started with Fabric? Yeah, right now, I would say. So you've got 60 days. Best time would be last June. So yeah, but then you had like a half year to play around with this F64. But yeah, it's still good to get started, I guess, right now and see what's possible there, and think of probably migrating some new stuff, especially if you build up a new environment, then it definitely makes sense to move to Fabric directly.
Just don't promise dev test prod. Don't make that promise.
Yes. Oh my God. Yeah. Good. There is a roadmap. At least they came up in October, I guess. So after community went crazy, like, what can we expect? Yeah, and as you see, there's a lot of things going on. That's just like one topic. You see Q1, Q4. Yeah, funny that this is still here, because yeah, should already been there. Anyways, Yeah, security features. I don't want to go into that, but as I said, it's all there. Recap. So that's, I guess, the landscape of all the stuff which you get in Fabric, all the items, and everywhere we have like that red pin here. We did that, the blue as well, but wasn't part of that presentation. Yeah, there are like these machine learning models, which we didn't use in that project, but probably this will come. We'll see. Yeah, done. Any questions?
So it took so long. Thomas.
That was awesome. Thanks, guys. Okay, here comes my question anyway. How did you set up your workspaces in Fabric? Like, did you have like one workspace for bronze and another one for silver and then one for gold? And that 3 times you get dev, test, and prod?
No, exactly because we wanted dev, test, and prod, we didn't go down that route. And we decided to pack everything into one master workspace, hoping to be able to then use dev, test, prod to create 3 times that master workspace.
We did exclude reports, I guess. So report is in a separate workspace.
Yeah, so self-service reporting is a separate workspace, but for the warehouse construct, we had everything in one. Yeah. We were also thinking about security, but we actually don't want anybody outside of the data team to mess with neither dev, bronze or silver, and even gold. We only wanted to make available via the semantic models. So from a security perspective, for this setup, we didn't see the necessity to break them out into their own workspaces.
Cool. And how did you use the lake houses? It seemed like on one of these slides that you had several lake houses in bronze or several lake houses in gold. I think it was like 18 or something, 17.
Yeah. So effectively, in bronze, we created a global lakehouse, and we also had a separate lakehouse for orchestration. Actually zoom in quickly. Good question, actually, because I think we ended up just with one bronze lakehouse. I think we have to update this design. But the goal was for gold to have multiple lakehouses, especially because of compliance, data compliance for HR. So HR gets their own lakehouse compared to the global one. So we got one global lakehouse where the bulk of the semantic model is in. And
we had one here. We had 2 here, like one for the archive. So that's like one-time import, but it's not correct here. Yeah, we had like this archive lakehouse and this current lakehouse.
True. But the archive, so we had one separate one for the archive. But we tried to keep it low, not too many lakehouse constructs, except if we needed from a security perspective, a separate lakehouse for a separate team.
And what does the orchestration lakehouse do?
Good question. So we started with only an orchestration warehouse, but we got into so many issues with contention that just to write updates and log data, we ended up using a lakehouse that didn't have the same transaction deadlocking problems we were getting from the warehouse. That was a pure workaround.
And you would still suggest to do the Azure SQL database instead of that lakehouse?
Yeah, definitely Azure SQL database. If we get the time this year, I'm probably gonna just take some time, rip that apart, put it into Azure SQL, and say that's a much smoother experience. For another customer, this is a word of warning. For another customer, we created a warehouse in Fabric where they would then push the data using an API. and they're pushing it transaction by transaction. So as soon as, like a trigger, yeah, and pushing the data like a trigger into a Fabric warehouse. And after virtually 2,000 records, the Fabric warehouse ground to a halt. It couldn't handle scanning all the logs because every single transaction was creating a new log file, was creating a new Delta file. And then it had to consolidate all of the Delta logs to figure out which files to actually join together. A simple query over 2,000 records was taking forever in the warehouse. And we got Microsoft support involved, and they turned around and said, don't do it. Don't do microtransactions on the Fabric warehouse. It's not designed for that. Yeah, bulk load, easy, have fun. But a normal transactional database construct, don't do it. It's not designed for transactional database constructs. They're fixing things.
Right.
They've now started doing cleanups on the warehouse to clean up fragmentation that's happening. So that they're fixing things right now as we speak. But as of a couple of weeks ago, still.
Which type of microtransactions are you talking about?
Just insert statements. There's lots of insert statements, a couple update statements, and if each transaction is one record.
Yeah. We had that concept of logging each import. So for each import we do, we did store the update, the insert, and the SQL and the output, and probably the error message to a single record. So, and this happens all the time if one activity is done. So, and then we had like a lot of imports, and yeah, this caused just too many troubles. So the pipeline was broken at the end, like because of too many activity or update on the insert statements to the warehouse. Yeah. So we ended up like just putting or inserting new records in the Lakehouse and then doing like an SQL view to gather them together and write them back to the warehouse.
Yeah, the Gen 2 also doesn't allow any update statements, to the best of my knowledge. It's everything or nothing.
Yeah, that's true. So another thing is part of the metadata-driven orchestration was the ability to do incremental loads. But to do an incremental load, we had to record when was the last load that actually ran to be able to know where do we start when we start looking for data. So we needed to have a way of recording timestamps back in the orchestration database for incremental loads. So that was another issue that we came across. We actually ended up doing a lot less incremental than we planned in the end. And because the copy data pipeline in the end was faster to do a full load than running a notebook trying to do an upsert on the Delta table. So trying to do upserts in the Delta table in a notebook took us a lot longer time-wise, and in the end also CPU-wise, than just doing a drop and reload the data. And even if it was 50 million records, it was still faster. Any more questions? Don't hold back. Okay, so I would say an interesting question we got from your colleagues at the Azure User Group session last time we presented this topic was, would you do it again? And having learned all that you've learned now, having experienced all that pain, would you do it again? And the answer is yes, I would do it again. I think Fabric is the way forward. We're seeing so many great things we can do with it. Yes, it's painful. It doesn't have DevOps. Yes, not everything is working as expected. But the things we can already do today, and more importantly, the extra value we can give our customer already today. Within hours, within actually a total of 2 days, I was able to do live reporting on their logistics for them. They never thought was possible because of KQL and the event streams. So the opportunities, you can really add more value and get more out of your data and really start utilizing the data platform to drive important decisions in your company. That's where Fabric really has its strength.
Yeah. One last thing if you're using Synapse currently, wait. So I don't think that's the right time to move away from Synapse.
Good point.
You can use Fabric in parallel, but yeah, there's actually no way to migrate here, or
not yet.
Yeah, not yet. I would wait.
Yeah. So yeah, migrating from Synapse to Fabric, it's a hard sell. Why? But if you don't have anything, then and you're starting from zero, and you're asking yourself, shall I go Synapse or shall I go Fabric? I would say risk Fabric. You will be setting on a horse that's got a bright future.
Amen.
Hey, Roman, that went really well. Your English was no problem. Thank you very much.
Hopefully my English wasn't too bad, so yeah.
Yeah, practice.
I'm practicing it.
So you can practice again and again, no problem. I will listen next time as well.
Thank you.
Christian, thanks for having us.
Close out. One big shout out to Rob. Really well done, and Alex as well. But I mean, I know I haven't expected anything else. Now then, today's user group. As usual, some further resources if you wish to learn about Microsoft Fabric. One thing to note: the next user group will happen on 7th of March in hybrid mode, meaning if you wish, you can attend in person, join us in the Microsoft offices at the Zurich airport. If you wish to do so, please reach out to me beforehand so I can register you and create a badge up front. That would be much appreciated. If you don't, no issue at all, you can still join via the Teams call as usual. We haven't defined the topic yet, so if you're interested in having a speech, reach out to me, no issue at all. Nevertheless, we have some speakers in pipe. Let's see who will get a slot there. And with that, thank you very much. Thank you again for the speakers today. Looking forward to all the events that are happening from Allgeier and from D1 and all the others conferences that I have discussed. And with that, wishing you all a very nice evening, very nice day, wherever you are, and hope to see you next time. Thank you very much.
Have a nice evening. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Thanks.
Good
Bye-bye.
questions. Stephen, Convents in this call?
Thanks, guys. That's great.
Bye.
My pleasure.
Wait, Stephen isn't in the call anymore.
Yes, he is. Stephen, yes, you are, because I've just approved you for the Fabric in a Day. So you want a second run at it this time?
Yeah, the first time I just dabbled. I was in